have you ever sat down in a room with someone who was to fight with you in a war and kill you?
미군들한테 포로된 느낌이네. 이 가운데서 이거 아메리칸, 노스코리아. 아유 이걸로.
Maybe his worst nightmare.
야, 그럼 빨리 싸우자. 북한에 탱크 있다는 건 알죠?
네네.
탱크 안에서 식사해봤어요?
네, 그럼요.
Today I'm joined by Kwon Hyo-jin, tank commander from North Korea, and Chad Miller, a retired American Army tank commander as well.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
미군들한테 포로된 느낌이네. 이 가운데서 이거 아메리칸, 노스코리아. 아유 이걸로.
Maybe his worst nightmare.
Chad, before today, have you ever sat down in a room with someone who was technically trained to fight with you in a war and potentially kill you?
Yes, to a certain degree, right? In North Korea, I'm aware that much like South Korea, they have a draft where like everybody needs to serve in the military. But this is kind of a special occasion where it's somebody who did the exact same job as me. And so this is something where it's definitely a very unique situation. I've never had this experience before, so this is great.
Okay. 미군 탱크도 무섭다. 우리가 이거 조심해야 된다는 훈련도 많이 받았어요?
저기 탱크에 대해서 관심을 안 가질 수가 없죠. 그냥 가져야 된다는 부분만 이야기하지 뭐 아주 미국 탱크가 뭐 멋지다. 잘생겼다. 뭐 이거 기능이 이거 아주 그 전투력이 높다 하면 우리가 겁이 나는 거지. 그런 것도 교육 안 해요. 그냥 적을 마주서면 우리가 이긴다고 생각하고 교육해야 돼.
Then when you were in the US Army, how often did you do training?
But I mean, if we're specifically talking about like actually being on the tank, actually just like rolling around in giant fields or whatever, that was a little bit less often just because of like economics, fuel prices, and it actually costs a lot of money for just a single round. And so that didn't happen as often, but every 6 months or there was always like a set time to complete and stay current on training. And so there was always a cycle. It was always going on. It was just a matter of like, how did that look? Was it like actually being on the tank, or was it more of a like digital or sort of simulated environment?
Then how often specifically would you end up shooting the gun on the tank?
Shooting, if I recall, it's been a long time now. I want to say it was like every 6 months, I think, we had to stay qualified on the tank. Every person, of course, has their position on the tank and what they need to do. So shooting the main gun maybe like once every six months. Training would be consistent, yeah. And so if we weren't on the actual tank, we'd be doing it in a more simulated environment.
So US tanks were training pretty consistently and shooting every 6 months. I'm curious what it was like in North Korea.
아, 그건 또 비슷하네요. 여하튼 너무 반갑잖아요. 약속도 한번 해도 되죠? 예, 이제. 아주 진짜 이건 내가 내 일생에 진짜 영광이에요. 미군 탱크병하고 그것도 저 적국 북한 탱크병하고 앉아서 대화한다는 게. 근데 이제 말씀하는데 훈련을 이렇게 하면 6개월에 한 번씩 포사격 하는데 북한도 그건 또 비슷하네. 나는 뭐 미군이 매일 쏘는 줄 알았는데 북한도 그냥 뭐 격자기 훈련, 뭐 조준 훈련 하다가 1년 한 번. 근데 지금은 포알이 좀 기름이랑 없으니까 1년에 한 번도 되나마나 해. 한 번 훈련할 때 450m 가는 동안에 기관총 20발. 뚜두두두둑. 예. 그 다음에 이동 목표. 또 뚜두두두둑 해서 기관총 20발을 사용해야 되고 포를 한 발 쏴야 돼. 자, 벼랑에다. 그러니까 먼저 뭐냐. 포로 철갑탄 한 방, 그 다음에 기관총 목표 3개 소멸하고 450m 돌아오는 거.
So when you're training in the US, typically how many shots would you take if you do it once every 6 months?
I was thinking about it as he was talking about like how many shots are we taking? I think it's I don't want to say it's similar, but it sounded like it was pretty similar because we would also have a course that we would sort of run on that we call them tables. I don't really know why they're called tables, but we would do up to I think like 6 tables, and so each of them have like a different degree of like shooting. So sometimes it's like, oh, you're only going to shoot one time, or you're not going to move. You're just going to be in one position and shoot, right? Others are like you're shooting while you're on the move. Like it's just varying degrees of complexity. But like he was saying, like we'll shoot the main gun, but then we also have like machine guns that are mounted on the tanks, and so this is all part of that as well. But for like the qualification table is called table 6, and this is something where I don't know the exact number, but it's probably around like 12 to 15 shots of like the main gun, and then there's also like some machine gun stuff in there. But of course it's limited amount, and so it's like if you miss, like it looks
pretty bad.
I mean, it looks pretty bad, but I mean, if you keep on missing, you're going to run out of ammo by the end of the table, and like you might not qualify, right?
Okay.
And so it's something where it's sort of like if you miss once, it's like just move on. Like you might not have enough by the end. But yeah, I think maybe about like 12, 15 rounds out of the main gun of different varieties too, different types of rounds.
So as a follow-up question, in the team, if the gunner misses, is everyone else pretty mad at it?
So, I mean, everybody has their job and sort of like a secondary job as well. And so for me, like I was a tank commander, and platoon commander, but also like of my own tank, I was the tank commander. And so my job is to sort of like help out the gunner and be like, hey, they're there, you're aiming too high, you're aiming too low or whatever. The loader, who's like literally his job is just to like take the big old round and put it in the main gun. When he's not doing that, he should be like up outside the tank, like looking around, looking for enemies. And so it's kind of it's a team fight. And so it's not something where like, oh, if the gunner misses, well, it's all on him. Like, you suck, dude. Like, why did you miss? Like, it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe we could have helped him out a little bit more to make sure he gets that shot.
In North Korea, in the tank, if someone misses, what was the 분위기? What was the feeling?
이제 그 대답하고 저도 좀 질문 좀 할게요. 미군은 어떤지 몰라. 그건 내가 잘못하면 뭐 용서받는지 모르겠는데 이거는 팀이 반복훈련하고 처벌받아야 되는 거예요. 산 꼬지리 올래 뛰고 또 내려오고 또 올라가고 이래 해야 되는 거예요. 그 육체적으로. 왜 그러냐면 잘 아시다시피 탱크는 합동훈련인데 합동. 4명. 근데 그걸 잘못하면 네 잘못했나? 이걸 계산하지 않고 팀 처벌. 미군 탱크가 노스코리아 북한 탱크를 교육하나요?
어떤 탱크냐면 조정하시는지 어떤 거냐면 쓰는지.
네, 북한에 탱크 있다는 건 알죠?
네네. 네, 알죠. 근데 그 러시아 탱크, 그러니까 진짜 이거 옛날 그 러시아 탱크 이거 쓰잖아요. 네네. 그래서 그 북한뿐만 아니라 그냥 다른 나라에서도 그냥 그런 탱크 쓰잖아요.
네.
그래서 그거 전반적으로 어떤 탱크인지.
As a, I guess, tank unit, what was your best moment or the most memorable part?
글쎄, 물론 북한의 탱크병 자체가 모든 병종들, 저격, 경보, 포병, 이런 땅 위에 있는 육상 무력에서는 탱크병이 제일 부러워하는 그 병종이에요. 그렇지만은 훈련이 너무 힘든 거예요. 그리고 훈련이 힘든 것도 있지만 조건이 너무 안 돼. 생활 조건이. 그러니까 훈련 나가면은 부대에서 다 보장해 줘야 되는데 그게 없는 거예요. 그러니까 승무원들이 자체가 자기네 나가서 먹을 걸 옥수수를 훔쳐오고 그다음에 뭐 닭 잡아서 얼커 눈 속에다 묻어놨다가 그걸 가지고 가야 되고 춥지 않으려면 안에 내일을 더 껴입어야 되고 이런 것들이 너무 힘들었어요. 그러니까 모든 게 나가면 다 부족한 거야. 그걸 우리 자체로 해결해야 되니까 그게 너무 힘들었어요. 그 탱크병들 재우지 않으니까 팀 스피릿 훈련 때 우리가 나갔는데 한 30, 40km를 거의 나왔어요. 나왔는데 잠 안 재우고 그 언 땅을 이 4명서 파야 되는데 탱크가 들어가리만큼 땅 파장 얼마나 힘들겠어요. 언 땅을. 꽃갱이를 까도 요만큼씩 떨어지는 거야. 그래서 어디까지인가 무한궤도까지 들어가게끔 하고 위에다가 풍 씌우고 위에다 눈으로 해서 겨울에 이렇게 흰 눈처럼 위장하는 거예요. 왜 저기 그 미군의 뭐 헬기나 뭐 거기서부터 근데 그걸 해놓고는 참 몇 시간 있다 또 옮기는 거예요, 장소를. 그러니까 화가 나니까 어떤 생각이 들더냐면 야, 빨리 전쟁하자. 죽든 살든 차라리 막 죽고 싶어요. 그래서 지휘관들한테 짜증 나는 거예요. 그럴 때 지휘관들이 건드리지 말아야 돼. 병사들 잘못 건드리면 아닌 게 아니라 이거 하겠더라고. 나는 그 경험했어요. 너무 화가 나니까 야, 그럼 빨리 싸우자. 근데 지휘관이 지시하잖아요. 이 눈에서 달이 떠요. 별이 떠. 이 새끼 그죠? 에? 그러니까 그 짜증이 다 지휘관한테 가는 거예요. 한 이틀 안 자니까 이게 한각이 오더라고. 가만히 보니까 군대를 그렇게 키우는 것 같아. 이 전투에 나가면 정신없이 막 사막에 그런 조건을 북한이 일부러 만드는 것 같은 느낌? 난 그게 죽어도 뭐 안 잊어져요. 그리고 밥이 얼었어. 밥 먹으라는데 밥이 꽁꽁 얼어서 망치를 깨먹었다니까? 그거 은밥 이렇게 녹여 먹고 이랬어요. 그리고 제일 좋은 순간이 뭐인가 하면 탱크가 우렁우렁 오면은 요 뒤에 동력부잖아요. 엔진. 포신을 쭉 돌리면 알죠? 포신 쭉 돌리고 탱크 풍을 씌워놓는 거예요. 그러면 텐트 돼, 텐트. 그렇게 그래놓고 그 엔진에서 올라오는 열,
네.
거기다가 배 딱 붙이고 4명 거기 앉아. 그게 제일 행복했어. 그거밖에 없어.
It's surprising to me how many things are so similar between the things that people who ride around on tanks in the US do and the things that they do. Everything he's saying, I'm just kind of like, yep, I've been there, just doing the same thing. Turn the turret to the side, set up like camp to sleep on the hot engine, basically, just like, oh, this is a warm place to sleep for the night. Great, let's do
That's
it.
amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So my understanding is that you were stationed in Korea while you were.
So yeah, I did a very, very short time. And so I sometimes say that I came to Korea with the US Army, and that's true. But I was here for like less than 2 months. So it was right at the end of a rotation. While I was here though, I mean, I went to the field while we were here in Korea, did some training here in Korea. It worked very similarly to the way it works in the US as far as like tank training and doing all of this stuff. So
If, obviously, God forbid, that a war had started while you were here, if North Korea had come down, what would your unit be doing in that situation?
yeah, I mean, there's always lots of talk about like contingency plans about like, okay, well, what happens if North Korea crosses the border and all this stuff. Our unit specifically, and I'm not sure if this is because we were like on rotation or if this is something that accounts for like the entire peninsula, but our job, to my knowledge, and I was a pretty low-level officer at this time, and so I don't know all the details, nor would I maybe be allowed to divulge all those details, but much of our job, as far as I understood, was civilian evacuation. It was not about, oh yeah, we're gonna take the fight to North Korea as soon as they cross the border. That was not our job.
For the North Korea tanks, did you guys ever train to cross the DMZ?
그럼요. 예, 그게 기본 그 북한의 훈련의 100%. 그러니까 거기서 자기들이 가명으로 무슨 뭐 안에 그 자체 방어를 하지만 탱크는 공격 무기예요. 방어 무기가 아니잖아요. 왜? 바퀴가 달려 있거든. 그러니까 공격 무기니까 공격할 대상이 도망강 넘어 중국이 아니고 러시아도 아니고 오직 사우스 코리아 이 공격이니까 그게 지형에 맞게 그 산악 극복하고 강 건너고 그거 많이 하지.
Did you ever come close to crossing the DMZ?
대한민국 철책에서 한 10km 좀 15km 정도에서 한 며칠 동안 있어봤거든요. 폐쇄체 열고 포알 장탄하고 그 전차장은 통신목 있잖아요. 딱 쓰고 무성기 딱 틀고 거기 앉아 있어요. 밥 날라다 주면 먹고 그렇게 있어봤거든.
As a follow-up question on the tanks, when you learned about Russian and other tanks, was the American military specifically concerned about North Korean tanks, or was it not considered a real threat?
I mean, it was still like very like Middle East heavy, right? But even in the Middle East, like they were also using lots of Russian tanks and all this stuff. But every person that rides around on a tank or on an armored vehicle, they're going to do like vehicle identification training. But we also know that like, okay, the main thing that you're probably going to be shooting, if it comes to that, is going to be something Russian made. And so lots of like T-72s, T-62s, like old like Soviet era Russian tanks. And so that was the big focus. But as far as like specifically North Korea, no, I don't think we were specifically trained on like, okay, what does like specifically a North Korean T-72 look like? I don't think we got that specific. It was mostly just like, okay, well, this is what the Russian one looks like. And then it'll probably have like some modifications maybe to like make it like North Koreaify it. But otherwise, I think that it was just, mostly focused on like the basic thing and some variations maybe.
Was there ever a time where you specifically trained how to fight against the American M1?
아, 그런 거는 별로 없어요. 왜 없냐면 미국 전차하고 우리가 교전에서 맞붙을 만한 지형을 걔들이 만든다는 그 북한이 노스코리아가 만든다는 그 자체가 웃기는 거죠. 왜? 지형 자체가 대한민국 땅 아니면 북한밖에 없거든요.
I would think there's a lot of resources and other tools that you probably had access to that the North Koreans didn't, that made training a lot more comfortable and also effective.
Sure.
What do you think would fall into that category?
So I mean, I don't know. I certainly don't know everything about what's available in North Korea for training for the military. I know a lot of focus goes there, but I mentioned earlier that if we weren't actually on the tank rolling around out in some field somewhere, we'd be doing simulation. And this is all like digital. But you go in and it's just sort of it's a box, but you go in and you sit in the same position as though you're in the tank. But it's all just digital. Like you're looking at a screen and like the enemies or whatever will pop up on the screen. And so you'll just go through the motions that way in a digital format. And this is, it's a way to save money because you're not actually like burning fuel. You're not shooting actual rounds, but you can still get that sort of like muscle memory or that like mental memory of like going through what you need to be saying, what you need to be like responding to and everything else. Some are more complex than others. Some will like actually like spin as though like you're actually like in the turret. And you'll actually spin. So like there's varying degrees. Others are sort of like just a box, like you're playing a computer game. It's basically like tank simulator. But this is something that I feel like maybe wouldn't exist in North Korea. I don't know for sure, but that's just one thing that like comes to mind.
When you were doing your training, what was the most difficult or dangerous part?
순간이 많아요. 근데 뭐냐면 산악운전 하는데 너무 무리한 요구를 하는 거예요. 근데 그 무리한 요구가 예를 들어서 32도로 올라가라 하면은 여기까지 지키면 좋은데 병사들이 자기들이 충실성을 보여주느라고 모험하는 거예요. 그러니까 더 높은 곳으로 올라가려고 해. 그러다가 그냥 클러치만 빼지면은 그게 톤수가 40톤이잖아요. 북한 탱크는 미군 탱크보다 많이 작잖아요. 뭐 없지 뭐. 그거 무섭고. 그리고 또 두 번째는 뭐니까 락타홈이라고 있어요. 락타. 아프리카 락타가 잔등이 이렇게 생겼잖아요. 이걸 이렇게 올라가서 이렇게 극복하는. 세 번째는 뭐니까 잠수도와. 물속을 들어가는데 그 조종사들이 19살, 20세잖아요. 얘들이 우릉우릉우릉 하고 물속으로 들어가는데 물이 점점 올라오는 거야. 당신도 정차장, 나도 정차장이지만 여기 투구에 앉아서 보면 물이 촤촤촤촤 올라 감시경까지 올라왔단 말이야. 그 다음에 들어간단 말이야. 6m. 이 조종사는 겁이 나서 엑셀 발 뗀단 말이야. 그럼 무릉무릉 하다가 물속에서 서 있는 거야. 그래서 전차장이 실맸어. 조종관 여기다가. 그러면 모래를 피해라. 모래밭이면 모래면 무한기도가 이렇게 가다 말이야 배때기 뜨거든. 그러면 꺼내지도 못해. 견인도 못해요. 근데 물속에서요 이만한 바위돌들이 막 굴러오는데 무한궤도로 치는 소리가 쾅쾅 나. 그게 제일 무서워요. 근데 막 난리 났어. 애들이 울고 그때 가만히 있고 밑에 비상유쿠 열라. 그럼 물이 콸콸콸콸 올라와. 올라올 때 물이 촉촉촉 차잖아요. 압력에서 이까지 차야 이 비상유쿠가 열리는 거예요. 그 유쿠 열면 사람이 휙 올라가. 그럼 밖에서 고무배 타고 막대기에다 고리 이렇게 걸어가지고 팍 당기는 거야.
거의 낚시하듯이.
낚시하듯이. 그래서 살지. 그런 훈련 매해 하지. 그게 좀 무서워요. 위험해요. 죽는 사람도 여럿이 되고.
So in the U.S., I would assume you didn't have that intense of moments, but anything similar?
He talks about getting stuck, and I'm like, I've got experience getting stuck for sure. It's similar. I know on the M1 the exhaust is in the back, and so like if you go too deep, like the engine's gonna get flooded, and you're gonna stall out. But there are some vehicles where they have like a sort of like elevated exhaust, like it's just an attachment that they put on so that you don't get stuck, so that you can actually sort of go sort of underwater. And I never did that, but as far as getting stuck, not just with rivers or streams or whatever, but just like in soft dirt. Like I have so much experience just getting stuck, and then you're just sitting around waiting to be towed out. And I know he mentioned that sometimes like you can't tow them out.
디지털 보니까 된다죠.
There was one time where one tank got stuck, and then okay, great, we're gonna tow them out with another tank. Cool. Then that tank got stuck.
Oh.
And then okay, now a third one comes, and that one gets stuck too. And like eventually we just had like an entire platoon of tanks stuck in the mud, now waiting for like an actual towing vehicle to come and try and pull them out. It is, in an actual fighting environment, obviously this would be very dangerous to have like 4 tanks or however many tanks just all sitting in one spot, just indirect fire or whatever comes in. It's like, okay, well, everybody's dead. It's good that, for both the US and for North Korea, I guess, it's good to train in the environment that you're going to be fighting in. but it also comes with those dangers.
What was the camaraderie like with among the four of you?
I mean, you become very close inside the tank. It's something where all of you sort of need to be in sync. If somebody's off or somebody's not feeling well or you know something's going on, like it's all about communication and making sure that everybody knows what they're doing, because otherwise it can be very dangerous, right? That turret is swinging, and some people are not. How can I say this? Some people are, there's sort of like places where if the turret spins, like something could, your foot could get stuck somewhere and like you'll have a broken foot. Or like the gun goes off and your leg is out to the side, like you're gonna get hit by the recoil of the main gun going off. And there are people who like break legs and all this stuff happens. And so communication is very important, making sure that everything is being communicated like I'm about to fire. Don't stand behind the main gun. But as far as like the personal relationship, I mean, yeah, you get very close with the people that you're riding around in for days, hours, days, weeks. For me, since I was the platoon leader and not just the tank commander, for me, I was always sort of like directing everybody else as well. Hey, not our tank, like, hey, you other tank, go over there. And so I'm not communicating as much with the three guys, the other three guys in my tank. And I sort of like delegate a little bit to my gunner because he's like the second in command inside the tank when that happens. And because I was an officer, I was a tank officer and not an NCO or a soldier, there's sort of just like the rank hierarchy, right, between these things. Other tanks in the platoon will have like an NCO, they'll have like a non-commissioned officer, so just like an enlisted guy like the rest of them as their tank commander. And so they have sort of a closer relationship because they're all coming from the same spot originally. But as an officer, it's sort of like you're sort of fighting with that hierarchy of rank, but also the camaraderie of being in the tank together and having to be very open and communicate openly. And so like if I mess up, I would expect my guys in my tank with me to like call me out and be like, sir, what the hell are you doing? Right? And like, who cares about hierarchy at this point? Like, you're gonna get us all killed, right? Some things become more important. Like, you got to read the room. Is this the time for hierarchy, or is this the time to like stay alive?
이야기 들으니까 궁금한 게 진짜 많아지네요.
하나 물어보세요.
네, 뭐 미군 승무원들이 나는 탱크병 하겠다, 탱크맨 하겠다 하는 걸 좋아해요?
제가 그러니까 사실은 그 탱크는 타고 싶지 않았어요.
아, 타고 싶지
원래.
않아요?
네. 하고 나서 그러니까 좀 좋아하게 되는 것 같았어요. 뭐 그러니까 탱크 타는 사람들이랑 좀 가까워지죠.
네. 탱크 안에서 식사해봤어요?
네, 그럼요. 네. 같이 식사하고 자고 그러니까 다 그러니까 해야 되죠. 그러니까 같이 쉬고
자기 자리에 앉아서
그러니까 수다 얘가 많이 나누고
수다.
그래서 그러니까 많이 가까워지죠.
Very cool. We'll appreciate the time, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.